Greetings, Lumen students. This is week 5, and this is your Monday video. We had a great time looking at the prezzies that you had created for the different historical topics, and I had a student mention a book about Owen and Maisie that I was really excited about. I knew that story that came from the Indian Ocean tsunami had been made into a picture book, and so I came across a video that has been of that story and picture book that I want to share with you. So let's take a look at this. Make sure we're ready to go. Okay, looks like I am.
A river flowed into the ocean. One day, a huge wave came and washed the hippos away. Except for one baby hippo who was stranded on a reef. The local people rescued the baby hippo and brought him to the beach. They named the hippo Owen after one of the rescuers. But what do you do with the baby hippo who's all alone? You can't put him with other wild hippos because they won't accept him. So, Owen was taken to a nature park where he was released in a safe place to be cared for by people who know about hippos. But he wasn't the only animal there. It was also home to a tortoise named Mizé. Mizé means wise old man. And he was old. 130 years old. From the very first day, Owen followed Mizé wherever he went. Maybe he liked the tortoise because he was big and round, like another hippo. Mizé didn't like having a tag-along hippo. But since Mizé was slow, there wasn't much he could do to get away from Owen. After a few days, Mizé got used to having Owen around. And then, Mizé began to follow after Owen. Mizé even showed Owen the leaves he liked to eat. And Owen liked them too. Without words, Mizé showed Owen a way to say, "Let's go." And one day, Owen said it to Mizé. They went into the water and hung out together. And they took naps together. No one ever could have imagined that such different animals could become friends. But they did. You can never tell who will become your best friend. The end.
Oh, that was awesome. I was mispronouncing Mizé, right? So that was fun, students, and kind of I thought was a great message as well. You have some new spelling words for this week. We're going to work some more on our homonyms, some words that sound alike but are spelled differently. So these are our words for this week. Wade goes along well with our story. To wade is to move through shallow water, of course, isn't it? And wade is to step on a scale and check your weight, but it's past tense with the ed added at the end. Okay, how about this one? Mizé and Owen took naps, and yawn is something that you do when you're tired, an involuntary response. And then yawn is an old-fashioned word to mean over there. Okay, yawn. Okay, not something we use too often, but something that's a good thing to know. Here are two words that are frequently used and are often confused: accept and accept. And they have very unique spellings and very unique meanings, students. To accept is to, let me just get a dictionary definition of this one. To allow or agree to. And you can remember that because of the A in agree, right? To accept is to allow or to agree to. Accept is to take away. And that means, and that you can remember that by the E and the X could stand for exit, to take away, okay? All of you can come except Mzee, for example, okay? That means to take away, okay? To exit, to not allow that. So they're very opposite and different meanings, aren't they? And important to know the difference between them. They are often misused. Okay. Bait. I know you've probably thought about bait. It's used in catching fish as a lure. Something used to lure something else. Bait, this type of bait, is to hold something back. And we generally use this word when we're talking about bated breath. She waited with bated breath. Okay? And it's usually used as a past tense word, meaning she's holding her breath. She's so nervous or excited that she's waiting with bated breath. Is that an expression you have ever heard before, students? These two are fascinating to me. Callous or callous. And the only difference between them is the O. Okay? To be callous is a character trait or an attitude that is kind of cruel or hardened against someone or something. They acted in a very callous manner, like they didn't care. Okay, that's callous. This is hardened skin, like on your feet or on your hands, the palms of your hands, a callus, where the skin gets thick and hard. But this is like your heart is hard, okay? You're not kind, you don't care about that thing, okay? Callous or a callus. Interesting. Days or days. That's easy, right? These are 24-hour periods of time. There's many of them in a month, and this is just confused, like really foggy or out of it in a daze. Okay, you're kind of confused. Here's some interesting words. You think, oh, well, I know what each of these is. Well, fair is to be equitable, even-handed. Okay, you're going to be fair with everyone. So to treat everyone equally. It's fair. Or it's very pale or light-skinned. Okay, fair. This type of fair is actually a carnival or a festival. Well, do we still spell it with the extra E on the end? Or do we go to a fair that's spelled like this? State fair. Interesting. I think we've dropped the E and that this has become the more accepted spelling of that word. And then fare, this is what you have to pay when you take the front runner, a train, a bus. You have to pay the fare, the cost for transportation. Okay, fare, fare, and fare. In and in. Okay, those are easy. The first in is a preposition that describes a location. In a box, okay, in a tree. Or an inn is a place that rents rooms to travelers. You're going to love these ones. New, like a wildebeest. New, as in to understand. You had that knowledge, you thought of it. And new, as in not old. Okay, something that is very recent. And then finally, hair. Hair and hair, as in a rabbit. This type of hair is used to describe a rabbit. Okay. Those are your spelling words for today. I'd like you to practice them, and then I'll be quizzing you on them as we go along this week. I've got some fun quiz games and mind reader mystery word games that we can play related to that. You are finishing up your autobiography writing assignments, students. If you're in the littles, and you have written about a story that has to do with your life. I have kind of a fun autobiography that I want to share with you. This is about a black basketball player in the NBA named Chris Paul. And he tells the story of when he was about your age. And the title of the book is Long Shot. Let's make sure I'm mirroring. And then let me read this to you. Chris Paul, Long Shot. Maybe I'll come so I'm in the corner. They can hear me too. Michael Jordan stalled in double coverage. He looks for an outlet. Jordan sees Chris Paul streaking down the sideline. Paul is only 8 years old, but he's lightning fast, and Jordan makes a quick pass. Paul tries left, pulls back for the jumper. He lets it go and scores. The crowd goes wild. In your dreams, Chris. My brother CJ and his friends were just getting back from the playground. They love to tease me about my game. You're too small to play basketball, said one friend. And tiny, said another. Did we mention small? Added a third, and they all laughed. CJ stayed behind as his friends left. They're right, you know, Chris, he said. The ball is bigger than you are. I threw back my shoulders and straightened up. Maybe, I said, but I've got good hands. Come on, help me practice. Tryouts are only a week away. Hey, called their mother from the doorway. What you boys need to practice is setting the table and eating your vegetables. Basketball will still be there after supper. At school the next day, I didn't pay much attention. All I could think about were tryouts. When my teacher talked about math, I remembered that the average height of a player in the NBA was 6 feet and 7 inches tall. I was only 4 feet 1 inch tall, and I wasn't going to get much taller in the next few days. That night, I was lying in bed when Mom came in. What do you think about Chris? Coach is only going to take 15 players. What if he thinks I'm too small? Mom smiled. You're a great basketball player, Chris, but basketball isn't the only thing that matters. Your family matters, and your education does too. And worrying about your height won't make you any better. Just do the best you can with the gifts you have. Then she gave me a kiss goodnight, and I fell asleep dreaming of a basketball moon shooting across the night sky. But I was still feeling scared on Saturday when I helped out my grandfather, Papa Chili, at his service station. You look a little deflated yourself, said Papa Chili as I filled up a flat tire. What's up? Everyone says I'm too small to make the basketball team, I said. Nothing wrong with being nervous, said Papa Chili. Look, Chris, you can't make yourself taller, but you can get faster and stronger. He winked at me. Work harder than everyone else on the court, and your size won't matter. Over the next few days, I spent hours and hours practicing. I shot layups and foul shots. I dribbled first with one hand and then with the other. I ran sprints to build up my wind. One day, my brother came out onto the driveway while I was resting. Hey, Squirt, said CJ, I've been watching you. Really? I didn't know CJ ever watched me. Yeah, well, don't tell anyone, said CJ, but listen, when you drive to the basket, don't look at the ball. Your hand should know where the ball is without looking. I nodded. And when somebody tries to fake you out, don't watch their arms or their head. Keep your eye on their hips. Nobody goes anywhere without their hips. The night before tryouts, I could hardly eat. Try to relax, Chris said. Dad, you're a good player. He isn't worried about being good, said CJ. He's worried about being short. It's true, I said. What if the coach makes up his mind about me before I even play? My father shook his head. A good coach will want to see what you're made of. And remember, Mom added, you're not alone in this. The whole family is behind you. There were tons of kids at the tryouts, and all of them were taller than I was. My heart was pounding. I wondered if anyone could see it thumping out of my chest. Everyone looked excited, but a lot of us would be going home disappointed. I knelt down and retied my sneakers. Then I took a few deep breaths. The coach split us into several teams. When my team took the court, I got the inbounds pass. I dribbled up court. The opposing guard watched the ball closely. Too closely. I faked a pass right and then went left for an open shot. Swish! Good move, Chris, yelled Dad. I got the ball back after the next basket, and the defense boxed me in. I forced a shot, but it was swatted away and I was knocked to the ground. Careful, don't step on him, someone shouted from the sidelines. I was done. I could feel it. I didn't dare look at the coach, but I heard Papa Chili cheering me from the stands. He didn't think I was done. He thought I was just getting started. I picked myself up and got back on defense. The other team's biggest player had the ball. I watched his hips, just like CJ had told me to. When he tried to fake right, I wasn't fooled. I darted in and stole the ball. I heaved a chest pass to my teammate under the basket, and right at the buzzer, he scored. Afterwards, we all waited for the big decision. The coach sat by himself for a few minutes, looking at his notes. Then he stood up and came forward. You all looked great today, he said. Everyone should be proud of that. I held my breath. So here's our team for the coming season. The coach named 3 centers, then the 6 forwards. That left 6 more spaces for guards. I wasn't the first player named or the second. 3 more names went by. There was only one left. What if it wasn't me? And Chris Paul, the coach finished up. I had done it. I had made the team. My parents and Papa Chili gave me a huge hug. Even CJ was impressed. Not bad for a squirt, he said. Nope, I said to myself. Not bad at all. So here's just some information about Chris Paul. His rise to the NBA began on the courts of West Forsyth High School in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where he led the Titans to the state regional final and a record 27-3 during his senior year. Arguably, one of the most significant moments in his basketball career came when, as a senior, he tallied 61 points in one game in honor of his grandfather, Nathaniel Jones, a.k.a. Papa Chili, who was tragically murdered just days before. When Chris reached the 61-point mark, his grandfather was 61 years old, he intentionally missed a free throw, then took himself out of the game in a fitting tribute to the man who meant so much to him. Chris chose to stay close to home for college and started on the basketball team at Wake Forest University, where he went on to become a 2-time All-American. Now in the NBA, Chris has emerged as the leader of the New Orleans Hornets. Chris finished second in the regular season MVP balloting and was named an NBA All-Star in 2008 after leading the Hornets in scoring with 21.1 points per game. His 2.71 steals per game and 11.6 assists per game were tops in the league as well. During his second season, Chris led the Hornets in assists, steals, and total points and was a member of the sophomore squad at the 2007 Rookie Challenge and Youth Jam. And Chris was also a member of the 2008 U.S. Olympic team, which took home the gold medal. And there's a picture of Chris Paul as a little boy, and then in the NBA. Look at how small he is compared to the other NBA athletes that are in the picture. So pretty impressive. Believe in himself and accomplish such great things. I'm excited to see hear your autobiography stories, just a scene from your life, a story, something that has happened to you, students. I'm excited for you to share those in our little team meeting, so we'll get going on that. Hey, we're going to talk some more about your action items for this week. As I continue with our videos, you are going to be learning this week about different types of sentences and how you punctuate each of those types of sentences. So we have, I've got to remember, let me just pull up our action items. So I make sure that I call them by the correct names that you're going to be learning about this week. So the first couple of activities talk about diagramming sentences, and we're going to practice with diagramming as well. And then the other action items talk about the types of sentences that you can see. So here we are, I'm just in my week 5 action items. So the types of sentences that are identified are declarative, interrogative, exclamatory, and imperative. Okay? Declarative, interrogative, exclamatory, and imperative. Okay, we're going to talk some more about those. But for now, I want to get back into our history studies. And we're going to be learning about another ancient civilization. So if you've got your cootie catcher, please get it out. I've got it somewhere on this table. I can find it. While you're getting yours out, guided instruction students, if you're just joining us, we worked on making cootie catchers last week in week 4. And what have I done with it? It's in my book all the time. Okay, so you can make one of these and follow along with us if you would like. Go back to week 4 Monday video, and that's where you'll be making your cootie catcher with curses and good fortunes for the people that you want to talk about or share this with, that you want to teach about these civilizations. Last time we did a civilization in the East, which was the Chinese. Today we're going to be doing the Persians. Okay, I'm learning about the Persians. So they're also, I'm going to call them also in the East. So you can write Persians on the flap next to the Chinese. And then listen as I give you some information about Persia. And then you'll be able to add your curse or your good fortune, okay, for the story. The Persians in the beginning were just a tribe of shepherds. They lived at the edge of Media and obeyed the king of the Medes. The Persian shepherds were ruled by a man named Astyages. He wasn't a good man. He liked ruling the Persians, and he would do anything to keep his crown. One night, Astyages had a dream that scared him. He dreamed that his baby grandson would grow up, take his power away, and become the ruler of the Persians. When he woke up, he was frightened. If I don't do something about this, he thought, my grandson will throw me off my throne and become king in my place. Astyages sat up all night thinking about his dream. And in the morning, he called his chief advisor, a man named Harpagus. I have a job for you, he said. I will do anything you tell me, O king, said Harpagus. Good, Astyages said. Take my grandson out to the mountains and kill him. And don't let anyone know what you are doing. Now go! Harpagus didn't want to do this terrible thing, but he was afraid to disobey the king. So he took the baby and walked out to the mountains. I have to obey my king, he thought to himself. I have to kill the baby, but I can't make myself do it. He looked around and saw a shepherd grazing his sheep nearby. He called the shepherd over. Here, he said, the king wants to get rid of this baby. You do it. If you do, I'll reward you with much wealth. But if you don't, I'll send the king's soldiers to punish you. The shepherd looked at the baby and had an idea. All right, he said to Harpagus. I'll get rid of the baby. He took the baby and ran home to his wife, who had no children of his own. Wife, he said, the gods have sent us a son. We can raise him as our own. His wife took the baby with tears of joy. And then the shepherd killed a goat, wiped his hands in the blood, and ran back to Harpagus. Look, he said, I've done as you told me. So Harpagus went back to Astyages and told him that the baby was dead. But the shepherd and his wife named the baby Cyrus and brought him up there on the mountainside. Cyrus grew up to be tall and strong. He was faster and smarter than any other shepherd's son, and he stood head and shoulders above every other boy his age. One day the shepherd took him down from the mountainside into town to help with the selling of the sheep. While they were in the marketplace, Astyages, the ruler of the Persians, came along with Harpagus. As soon as Astyages saw the young boy selling sheep, he knew that this was his grandson. And that evening he sent for Harpagus. "You disobeyed me," he said to Harpagus. And Harpagus admitted that he had given the baby to a shepherd rather than killing him. Astyages was so furious that he tried to kill Harpagus and his whole family. But Harpagus fled to the mountain and found Cyrus. "If you want to take the king's power away and become king of the Persians yourself," he told Cyrus, "I will help you." Together, Harpagus and Cyrus convinced the Persians to follow Cyrus rather than Astyages. Cyrus took power away from his grandfather and became the ruler of the Persians, just as Astyages had dreamed so many years ago. Then he led the Persians in a war against the great empire of Media. After 3 years of fierce fighting, Cyrus conquered the king of Media as well. Now Cyrus, who had been raised by a shepherd on a mountain, ruled over the combined empire of the Medes and the Persians. Cyrus was a great warrior, but he was also known as a good and fair king. Even though he had conquered the Medes, he let the Median people stay in their own homes. He even let Median noblemen have some of the power in his new combined empire. After all, his empire was so big that he needed help. He couldn't collect all the taxes, judge all the court cases, and settle all the problems himself. So he made Persians and Medians officials in his kingdom. The Medians felt that they were being treated well, and so they didn't try to rebel against Cyrus's rule. Now Cyrus decided to make his empire even bigger. He wanted to conquer Asia Minor. Asia Minor was ruled by King Croesus, who was the richest king in the world. He had more gold than anyone else. Cyrus knew that if he could conquer Croesus, he would be rich as well. So he marched his army up to the kingdom of Croesus and conquered it. He captured Croesus and made him stand up on the walls of his city and watch as Persian soldiers looted it. The soldiers went all through the city carrying away armloads of treasures, gold coins, and jewelry. But Croesus just watched calmly. Finally, Cyrus said, "How can you be so calm? They are robbing you of all your gold." "No, they aren't," Croesus said. "The city belongs to you now, so they are actually stealing from you." When Cyrus heard this, he stopped the soldiers at once and took all the gold back. I really like that story, students. Hey, I want to read one more story about you, for you about the Persians. This involves Babylon, which we have talked about before, and you have in your cootie catcher a little bit about Babylon. We talked about Hammurabi and his code. We're going to talk now about another one of the 7 wonders of the world and why it was built. Okay, Nebuchadnezzar, the great king of Babylon, sat on his throne and worried. He had a great empire, but what if another country attacked him? He wasn't sure that his army could defend Babylon from invaders, and he was very worried about Persia, a country to the east of Babylon. The Persians were expanding their own country, their army was strong, and he had heard frightening stories about Persian soldiers. "I know what I'll do," he thought to himself. "I will ask the king of Persia if I can marry his daughter. Then he will be my father-in-law, and he won't ever attack me." Nebuchadnezzar had never seen the daughter of the Persian king, but that didn't matter to him. He was willing to marry a stranger to keep Babylon safe. So he sent messages to the king of Persia offering to marry the princess. Meanwhile, the king of Persia was sitting on his throne worrying about Babylon. "What will I do if Babylon attacks me?" he thought. "Their soldiers are such good fighters. I'm not sure that we could defeat them. How can I convince Nebuchadnezzar to leave me alone?" Just then his servants entered with a message from Nebuchadnezzar. Sir, he said, the king of Babylon has sent you a message. He wishes to know if you will give him your daughter in marriage. The king of Persia was greatly relieved. Of course I will. He said Nebuchadnezzar would never attack his own father-in-law. And he sent for his daughter, the princess Amytas. My dear, he said, the king of Babylon wishes to marry you. I never even met him. Amytas protested, I don't want to leave my home in the mountains to live in Babylon. It's down on flat land where the air is still and thick. If you marry him, the king of Persia said, Persia will be safe from attack, and you will be helping our whole country. Finally, Amytas agreed. She traveled to Babylon for the great wedding ceremony. As soon as Nebuchadnezzar saw her, he fell in love with her. He built her the most beautiful rooms to live in and filled them with lovely things. He gave her gold jewelry, cloths of silk, pet monkeys from China to play with, beautiful flowers to make her rooms colorful, and servants to do her every wish. But Amytas wasn't happy. She missed the cliffs and the valleys of the Persian mountains. Most of all, she missed the gardens that the Persian people built on the hillsides. I want to go home, she said. I don't want to live in Babylon anymore. It's so flat and dull here. How could I make Amytas happy? Nebuchadnezzar thought, and then he had an idea. He would build her a garden, a mountain garden, right in the middle of the city of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar set to work at once. He ordered his slaves to haul huge slabs of rock in from far away. Out of this rock he built an enormous hill, an artificial mountain. He covered the rock with dirt and planted it thickly with trees, flowers, and bushes. He had plants brought from Persia so that Amytas could see familiar flowers again. Nebuchadnezzar's men even built a pump that would pull water up from the Euphrates River to the very top of the gardens. And then the water ran down the garden just like a mountain river. Nebuchadnezzar ordered paths built up and down the mountain, and then he brought Amytas out to see what he had done. My dear, he said, you cannot return to Persia, but I brought a little bit of Persia to you. Now you can walk in your hillside garden whenever you want. Amytas's garden became known as the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. People came from all over to admire the mountain Nebuchadnezzar had built in the middle of flat, hot Babylon. And every day Amytas walked in her garden and pretended that she was back home in Persia. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were so beautiful and so huge that they are now called one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The 7 wonders are things that ancient people made or built that we still think are incredible even today. One of them was the Great Pyramid of Giza, and now we have studied about the second of the 7 wonders of the world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Okay, as soon as you need to think of a curse and something good that could happen to you if you were transported back to Persia. Okay. So maybe you want to say you could be given away to shepherds. All your gold could be stolen. What's something else bad? I'm going to put all gold stolen. Okay. Your grandfather could try to have you killed. And then something positive. Okay, we need to put underneath the Persians on these 2 triangles something good, a good fortune that could have happened to you. You could walk in the Hanging Gardens. Sounds pretty cool. Maybe you want to say you could become the richest person in the world. You could have a mountain built for you because you're so beautiful. Think of a good fortune and a bad fortune that would happen, students, if you managed to make it back to live in the time of the Persians. And we've got a few more civilizations that we'll be adding as we continue on this week. That's 4, so we've just got 4 more. We're going to need to do 2 one day so we can finish up and then you can start playing with it. Thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you either in team meetings or homeroom, or also just in our videos and action items. Thank you.